She laughed at the idea of breeding with a human, until her body betrayed her species. The forest was silent, but not just any silence. It was thick, heavy, the kind that pressed down on your lungs, as if the snow wasn't only on the ground, but floating in the air, seeping into your ears, your bones, your soul. Frost-covered trees bent under the weight of time, and each step sank to the shin. The muffled creak of branches was the only sound accompanying Eli. He was a biologist, but this week he was just a man running from the city, from the loss of his sister, from the beeping of hospital machines and the protocols that failed her, running from the nagging feeling that there was something more, and he had missed it. That's when he saw the tracks. They weren't deer, not bear either. They were wide, 3 claws, over 8 inches across, and fresh. He crouched down to study them. The pattern was odd, almost feline, but the spacing made no sense. It was like something huge and heavy had passed by, leaping. He looked around. The late afternoon mist swirled with the hot vapor from his breath. His instinct said, "Don't follow." But he wasn't looking for safety. He was looking for a reason. He walked. For over an hour, he climbed an icy slope. Then he saw it. A soft amber glow pulsing in the middle of nowhere, like sunlight hitting crystal. But there was no sun. He moved closer, his heart pounding. And then she emerged from the steam. She didn't walk. She hovered slightly. Her feet barely touched the ground, like the planet didn't fully accept her. She was massive, nearly 8 feet tall. Her skin was orange like fire, but with the delicate texture of wet porcelain. Her hair, if you could call it that, was a cascade of living tangerine strands, floating like slow-motion serpents. Her face was sculpted, symmetrical, but the angles were just wrong enough to feel alien. Her eyes, golden and deep, didn't blink. Eli froze. She looked at him like she already knew who he was, as if this meeting wasn't a coincidence, but a convergence. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, her voice low, but vibrating inside him like the sacred growl of a divine animal. Eli didn't reply. He didn't move. He was hypnotized. She stepped closer. The snow beneath her evaporated. "Your species is smaller than I remembered." She studied him like a giant watching an ant trying to cross a canyon. "Are you real?" he whispered. She didn't answer, just moved closer. The air grew suddenly colder. The mist around her seemed to drain heat from the world. Then she smiled. "You've seen me. That's already a mistake." Her eyes shimmered brighter. "But you haven't decided yet if you're the kind of human who runs or steps closer." Eli, heart racing, took a step forward. Her brow furrowed, surprised. "Interesting." A distant howl broke the moment. Not a wolf, but some machine or creature that defied explanation. She turned her head sharply. Was she being hunted, or simply hiding? "Are you in danger?" he asked, taking a chance. She looked at him, long and deep, like she was reading his layers, his DNA, his guilt, his decency. And then she said something he would never forget. "We all are. But you have something I can't replicate." She touched his chest, as if searching for his heartbeat, or something older than that. Eli felt a warmth radiating from her, defying the brutal cold around them. His body didn't know whether to freeze or melt. She turned away and began to leave. But before disappearing, she murmured, "Don't follow me, human. I don't laugh at threats. But the idea of reproducing with you, now that's hilarious." And just like that, she vanished into the mist. But he already knew. That wouldn't be the last time he saw her. And she had already laughed too much. 2 days later, the radio in the cabin crackled, repeating a warning from the Park Service. Avoid northern trails. Wildlife displaying abnormal behavior has been cited. Extreme caution or evacuation is advised. Eli wasn't listening. He could only think about her. The alien, if that's what she even was, had left more than just footprints in the snow. She'd left a hunger, a void that had grown wider with every hour since their encounter. It wasn't just scientific curiosity anymore. It was personal. The moment her hand touched his chest, something changed inside him, like a spark long forgotten had been reignited. And then she returned, in the dead of night, without warning, at the same spot where he had first seen her. This time, she wasn't hovering. She was walking, and she wasn't alone. 2 smaller figures, likely of her species, followed at her side. Their skin was also solar in hue. One a deep golden bronze, the other a dark orange. Their features were softer, their eyes less intense, almost childlike. "You came back," Eli said, unable to hide the urgency in his voice. "I told you not to follow me." "I didn't. You followed with your thoughts." She stepped closer. Her tone was serious. A glowing mark shimmered on her shoulder, a spiral emblem pulsing like fire under her skin. "I am Meliara, first matrix of the Ariath swarm." "Eli, short name." "It's just a name." "It's not." She stared at him, then motioned to the two figures behind her. "My reproduction guardians. They're here because you crossed a boundary." He swallowed hard. "What boundary?" "You made me feel." Meliara moved closer. "Humans aren't supposed to be capable of that. Your bodies are weak. Your minds, primitive. But my core responded to your touch. That is either a biological failure or an evolutionary anomaly. You say that like it's a bad thing." She stopped. Her golden eyes glowed in the darkness like quantum lanterns. "It's dangerous. If my people discover that my body responded to yours, what happens?" She hesitated. "I lose my crown." The words hung in the air, colder than the snow itself. One of the guardians hissed in a language Eli couldn't understand, a mix of liquid sounds and metallic clicks. Meliara silenced her with a sharp glare. "They say I should remove you from the equation before the reproductive cycle stabilizes." "You're saying it's already started?" "It wasn't supposed to, but yes." She turned her face away. "My internal systems are altered. Your hormonal presence triggered an ancestral switch." The touch was enough to begin. Eli felt the weight of that truth settle on his chest. She didn't laugh at the idea of breeding with a human anymore. Now, she feared it. "Is that bad for you?" he asked. Meliara narrowed her eyes. For the first time, she looked human, conflicted, torn. "Everything in me says yes. But what's growing inside me doesn't listen to logic, only instinct." A gust of freezing wind swept through, sending snowflakes swirling between them. The forest groaned. The cabin's distant radio went silent. Eli stepped forward. Just one step. She didn't move back. "Do you want me to leave? I want you gone before it's too late." "Too late for what?" She took a long time to answer. "Too late for what we're about to break." Just then, a light in the sky. Fast. Red. A ship. The guardians raised their hands. Lights pulsed from their palms. Alert mode. Meliara shouted something. It sounded like glass fracturing under pressure. "What is that?" Eli stepped back, the red glow flashing in his eyes. "They found us. The Biogenetic Council. They're here to retrieve me, or eliminate me." "What?" "Because no being from my caste is supposed to respond to a human." She turned, and in a motion like a crashing wave, grabbed Eli's arm. Her skin burned with a feverish heat. "Listen to me, human. You need to choose. Either disappear now and never see me again, or come with me. And whatever happens next can't be undone." And now, the conflict had begun. She no longer controlled her own body, and he was in far deeper than he could have ever imagined. And something, or someone, was coming. The ship didn't land. It hunted. The sky split with a deep hum, like thunder swallowing the night. The ship's structure wasn't aerodynamic. It was organic, pulsing, alive. It didn't look built. It looked born. It moved like a fetus inside a metallic womb. "They know," Meliara whispered, still gripping Eli's arm. "They know I'm altered." "Altered how?" "Pregnant. Or close to it." The words hit him like a silent avalanche. But there was no time to process. A beam of light slashed through the trees, hitting one of the guardians. She disintegrated without a sound. No scream, no resistance. The other leapt, her back splitting open like wings made of spikes, launching herself at the ship in a blaze of orange and yellow. Meliara screamed in a language beyond comprehension. Everything around them trembled. The snow beneath her feet melted. Her body glowed with that same amber hue he'd seen the first day. She turned to him. "We have seconds. What do you want me to do?" he asked, voice shaking, fear undeniable. She hesitated. For the first time, she didn't seem to know. Then she took a deep breath, heavy, alien. "Come with me." "To where?" "Inside." She pulled him with a strength that was gentle, but impossible to resist. And then, beneath their feet, the ground opened. Not like collapsing Earth, but like a mouth. The forest was hiding something. Something ancient. A living structure buried for ages. Eli watched as the entrance shaped itself around them like a womb. The light inside was golden, wet, and warm. Then, everything closed. Silence. He could barely breathe. He was inside a translucent chamber. The walls looked like skin. They pulsed. The air smelled like sap and heat. "What is this?" he asked. "The womb of refuge," Meliara replied. She seemed calmer here, but the glow in her skin was too intense. "I was meant to be here alone, but my body, it's calling for you." The touch triggered old cycles. Things I didn't even know still existed. "You're saying you were made for this?" She looked at him with a mix of anger, desire, and confusion. "No, I was made to command. Breeding with humans was an old myth, told to frighten young females of my caste. They said if we touched a human at the wrong moment, our bodies would choose for us. And yours did." She didn't answer. She just moved closer. The chamber wall lit up. Eli saw his own reflection, sweaty, filthy, wide-eyed. And next to him, her, magnificent, nearly 8 feet tall, radiant with bioluminescent energy, her hair dancing like underwater flame. "You can still leave, human. The cycle can still be deactivated. But what about you?" She swallowed hard. "If it's deactivated, I'll be reset. I'll lose this." She touched her belly, where a soft glow now pulsed like an embryo of light. "And if it's not?" She didn't smile, but her eyes changed. "Then you'll be the first, and the last, and the universe will never be the same." Outside, the ship howled like a wounded heart. It was digging, burning through the trees to reach the chamber. Eli felt the ground tremble. Time was running out. "Meliara," he said, calling her name. She turned. "Tell me what you feel. Not with your body. With you." She hesitated. Her eyes closed. And when she spoke, it was a whisper that felt carved into the living walls of the chamber. "I feel alive for the first time." And then, everything collapsed. The structure burst into shards of light. The ship had broken through. A rupture opened in the chamber, and the brutal cold of the forest came crashing in. 2 beings descended, floating. They were different from her. Tall, with marble eyes and skin the color of ash. In their hands, spheres of liquid crystal. Eli tried to shield Meliara. She shoved him back. "Stay away. They can't touch you. And you." She rose to her feet, her belly now glowing with intense orange light. "I'm an abomination to them now, but I'm also a potential mother." And that, they didn't expect. The 2 aliens stopped in front of her. An ancient tongue echoed, a decision being rendered. Then, an explosion of light. Total light. For a moment, Eli couldn't see, couldn't hear. He could only feel a vibration moving through his bones, as if every cell in his body was being measured, cataloged, judged. When the light faded, the 2 aliens were still there, but now kneeling. Meliara had collapsed too, kneeling, eyes closed, trembling. "Meliara." Eli dropped to her side. She didn't respond at first. Her once incandescent hair hung dull and limp. Her luminous skin cracked like dried clay. "What did you do to her?" he shouted, trying to shove the 2 beings, but his hands passed through them like dense holograms. Then a voice filled the chamber. No mouth, no sound, but clear. "The lineage has been activated. The anomaly exists. Judgment begins." Above, the ship began to transform. It folded in on itself, rearranging its living parts into new structures. A womb in orbit, not preparing to land, but to collect. Eli looked at Meliara. She was gasping now, her eyes open, unfocused. Amber fluid trickled from her nose. "Stay with me. You're here with me. Okay? Do you hear me?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she whispered, weak. They saw it worked." "What worked?" She grabbed the collar of his jacket with her last strength. "The genetic compatibility. You triggered a code that hadn't been touched in millennia. Something that binds species, that hybridizes legacies. That's good, right? For us, maybe. But for them, it's an evolutionary heresy." That's when one of the aliens spoke, not telepathically, but aloud. The sound was thunder in a bell, and Eli understood it. "The human will be taken. The experiment will be terminated." "No." Meliara tried to rise, staggering. "He's not an experiment." The beings extended their hands. The light around Eli began to vibrate, like harp strings about to snap. His body lifted into the air. He screamed, but not from pain, from fury. You don't have a right. She's a life. I'm a life. And then, the impossible happened. The light came from him, from his chest, a glowing amber point, resonating in the same frequency as the one pulsing inside Meliara's womb. The two energies met midair, colliding, and the alien being staggered back. The bond is reciprocal, one of them said, as if such a thing had never been considered. Eli dropped to the ground, gasping. Meliara crawled to him, weeping. Her tears were liquid light. You're not just compatible, she said. You chose. Of course I chose. That makes us untouchable. The two beings paused, looked at each other, and then the sentence came. The lineage will be preserved, but isolated, forever. A rift opened in the snow. Not dark, luminous. A cocoon. A refuge. An exile. They want to imprison us, Eli said. No, they want to keep us. Like we're some kind of sacred anomaly. An Earth. Forget Earth. She looked at him, serious, but tender. Unless you want to run now. He looked at the rift, at her, at the sky, and said, I don't run from what chose me. He pulled her into his arms. She held him like someone holding on to a memory, and the two dove into the light. If you've ever rooted for an impossible love, subscribe to the channel. There's more where this came from. Days, without night, without time, where they were taken didn't follow human laws. There was no sun, no sky. The refuge was a translucent biosphere, suspended in what looked like an inverted ocean of light. Gravity was soft. The air was sweet. The silence, absolute. Eli opened his eyes. He was lying on a living, breathing surface, as if resting on the chest of a sleeping titan. Beside him, Meliara slept, or meditated. It was hard to tell. Her body, once pulsating, now glowed with a restrained light, adjusting to the new reality. He rose slowly, too exhausted to speak. Her belly was no longer symbolic. Something real was growing there. But what hit him hardest was the sound. None. The refuge was so utterly silent that the noise of his own thoughts felt too loud. He walked, trying to understand the space. There were no doors, no windows. The place was vast, or perhaps so small it folded on itself. It wasn't a prison. It was a womb. Eli touched the wall. It pulsed under his fingers, warm, alive. Is this a cell? He asked the nothing. It's a sanctuary, Meliara answered behind him. Her voice was lower now, more human. But we're trapped. We're protected. She sat, wrapping herself in a translucent veil of her own hair. The choice we made has no precedent. They couldn't leave us out there, couldn't destroy us either. So they did what they always do with what breaks their laws. They isolated it. They immortalized it. This will last forever. Yes. The word fell like a stone into the calm lake of Eli's mind. He stepped closer. He looked at her belly, visible now, vibrating. And this is ours. But what is it? Meliara looked at him. There was something new in her eyes. Fear. I don't know. Will it be one of them? One of us? She hesitated. Maybe something in between. And is that bad? It's impossible. But it's happening. She took his hand. Do you understand what it means to carry a life that shouldn't exist? He nodded. It means it might change everything. She smiled. You talk like a storybook hero. And you talk like someone who wants to believe. Time passed in cycles, not days. They ate what the refuge provided. Translucent fruits, nectars that fed without weight. They slept in floating nodule pods wrapped in bioluminescent light. And the child grew. Sometimes, the refuge trembled, as if reacting to the fetus's heartbeat. Sometimes, both of them felt pain, simultaneously. Sometimes they cried together, and sometimes they made love with desperation. Not for pleasure, but out of a need to exist within something the universe tried to erase. And then she dreamed. Meliara woke up, gasping. I saw something. What? Our child, opening their eyes. And they had no face. Eli swallowed hard. It was just a nightmare. No, it was a warning. From the ceiling of the refuge, a slit of light opened. Small, like an eye daring to peek. A voice, not metallic but ancient, echoed. The cycle approaches. When the birth comes, a decision will be made. One of you may leave. The other will remain. Eli looked at Meliara. One of us. Leave to where? To where the choices began, or to where they must end, but not together. The hole sealed shut. Silence again. Meliara touched her belly. They want to separate us. Eli nodded. Because they're afraid of what we could be together. The refuge changed with time, as if responding to the fetus's development, or the emotions between them. The once clear walls turned amber. The air grew heavier, the light softer. Eli began hearing a heartbeat, but it wasn't Meliara's. It was another, smaller, faster, but growing stronger each day. They spent hours in silence, not for lack of things to say, but because every second felt more sacred in silence. I never thought I'd be here, Eli said one night. Meliara was curled in what they called the floating niche, a living cradle that rocked them gently, like a leaf drifting on a windless lake. Me neither. I was just a human, with common pain, small dreams. And now you're the progenitor of the first cross-species being in the history of my people. She smiled, and it was real. That terrifies me. That comforts me. Eli ran his hand through her hair. It had begun growing again, now glowing deep orange with strands of gold. The mutation was visible. You've changed. I'm adapting. My body's preparing for the birth. Does it hurt? She nodded, like an inner war, as if my people were pulling me back. But my body knows this child is all that's left of what I was, and all I can still become. There was a pause. Then she looked at him. Do you forgive me? For what? For laughing at you, at your species, at the thought of loving you. Eli smiled. Only if you forgive me too, for being afraid to touch you, and touching you anyway. She placed her hand on his chest. That's what triggered it all. That's what started us. The days became preparation. The birth, or what approached it, was a biological process never recorded before. Meliara's belly pulsed with a frequency that altered the atmosphere around it. The biosphere changed its offerings, now rich in salts, dense proteins, even traces of solid carbon. She sweated in her sleep, and spoke in other tongues through her dreams. Eli stayed close, held her, wiped her forehead, helped her walk. He spoke to the fetus, told stories, sang off-key human songs that made her laugh even through the pain. Your people have horrible music, she groaned during one contraction. And you love every note, he teased. Unfortunately, I really do. One night, the refuge shone like never before. The walls trembled with orange and white light. She started to bleed, but her blood was liquid light. Eli held her as she screamed, her body arching as if something inside was both trying to be born and trying to stay. Meliara, breathe with me. I can't, he's deciding. What do you mean? The choice. He's listening to what the guardian said. One of you leaves. The other stays. Eli froze. He's going to choose. She nodded, screaming, crying. Her tears fell onto his face and burned like solar dew. He's going to choose who dies. The sentence made no sense until everything around them stopped. Silence, white light, and then a voice inside Eli's mind. Father, mother, I cannot have both. Which of you will give me the path? Eli held Meliara in his arms. She was weeping silently. Her eyes begged, say it will be you. But he couldn't. He wouldn't. So he held her tighter and whispered, I want him to know you. No, he needs to know strength and courage and how to begin again. He needs to see the light I saw. She clung to him in desperate agony. Eli, I love you, and I love him. And if this is the choice, I accept it. Everything ignited. A burst of heat, light, and silence. Eli closed his eyes, bracing for the end. But it didn't come. Only a sound. Small. Alive. A cry. Eli opened his eyes. He was lying down. The chamber ceiling glowed gently. Beside him, Meliara, exhausted, drenched in sweat and light, but alive. And in her arms, a being, with translucent skin and shades of amber and gold, hair like strands of sunlight and mist, eyes human. He looked at Eli and smiled. Meliara touched Eli's face with a trembling hand. He didn't choose between us. Eli smiled through his tears. He chose both of us. The birth wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the storm. For 3 full cycles, the refuge remained calm. The child, whom they named Kale, grew fast. Too fast. In days, he could hold his head up. Within a week, he walked. In less than a month, he spoke 2 languages, human and ancient. Maliara had changed. The birth had transformed her from the inside out. Her caste markings had vanished. Her once flame-orange skin now held soft, bronze tones. Her eyes held something maternal that no genetic code could define. Eli had changed too. He slept little. He heard sounds no human ever had. He touched the refuge's walls, and they responded. Kale was changing both of them. Then, the refuge trembled. The warning came as a roar inside Maliara's mind. They're coming. The birth activated the harvest protocol. The child of 2 species will be treated as a weapon, or be destroyed. Eli held Kale in his arms. They want to take him, or erase him, Maliara added. Then the choice isn't over. A crack split open in the refuge's ceiling. The ship had returned. Only now, it wasn't here to watch. It was here to take. Gravity distorted. Kale began lifting upward, pulled into the beam of light. No, Maliara screamed, arms reaching out, but her body was thrown backward by an invisible force. Eli ran, leapt, caught Kale midair, but the beam reacted violently. Eli's body began to burn. Eli! Maliara screamed, struggling to rise, but the light held her down. The entire refuge groaned like a wounded creature. And then Kale looked at his father, with eyes fully golden. Clear, certain. Stop, said Kale. The voice came as a universal command. Not in English, not in Maliara's tongue, but in a sound that everything understood. The beam stopped. The force field vanished. Kale dropped into his father's arms, and the 3 of them hit the floor of the refuge, gasping, scorched, but alive. Maliara crawled to them, held them both. Spoke. Eli whispered, tears falling from his eyes. He gave an order, but it didn't end there. The ceiling split open. The ship descended, and this time it opened. From within emerged a being like none they had ever seen. Taller than Maliara, skin as dark as stellar void, eyes like burning black holes. The Primus, the archivist of Ariath's genetic purity. He floated down without touching the ground. Around him, no sound dared to exist. You have broken the seal of separation, he said, without moving his lips. You created a lineage that defies all rules. Maliara stood, upright despite her injuries. We created something alive, and that is the problem. Eli stepped forward. You're afraid of him. We fear what he may become. Then tell me, Kale said, stepping forward. He now appeared to be 5, maybe 6 years old. His growth was rapid. What do you want me to be? The Primus hesitated. A weapon, a bridge, a god, or a mistake. Kale looked to his parents. I'm what you made together. And what do you choose to be? Asked the Primus. Silence. The air stilled. Kale opened his arms. His hair ignited. His eyes became translucent, and the entire refuge responded. The walls shook. The ship pulled back. The sky cracked, revealing stars. Kale looked at the Primus. I choose to be free. And then he vanished. A blast of light consumed everything. When it faded, the ship was gone. The Primus too. The refuge was now open. Eli and Maliara stood alone beneath a star-filled sky. Kale was gone. Maliara collapsed to her knees. He's gone. No, said Eli, hand over his chest. He's out there. How do you know? Eli smiled. Because I can still hear his heartbeat. And in the silence of the stellar night, the sound echoed. A heart, beating in freedom. The sky was full of stars now. The refuge, or what remained, had become a clearing in a forest that had never existed before. The ice had melted, revealing deep roots, unseen flora, fresh water flowing from ochre-colored stones. As if Kale's birth had generated an entirely new ecosystem. Eli stepped barefoot onto the newly formed grass. The ground was warm. The breeze carried sounds, birds, wind, life. But none of those sounds were his. None were Kale. Maliara lay near the spring, her hair floating in the water. She breathed slowly, hadn't spoken in 2 days. Eli approached, knelt beside her, fingers slipping into her orange hair, now dusted with white. Signs of effort, of pain, of change. Do you think he's all right? He asked, too afraid to expect an answer. But this time, she did. I feel him, she said. Eli sighed. I feel it too. He's not dead. I know, but he's not alive the way we were. She turned to him, her eyes still weary. He transcended something, went beyond what I understand as birth or childhood. You think he became part of the universe? No. Then what? I think he's creating one. A universe. She nodded. Inside him. A place where what we are isn't forbidden. Where mixtures aren't curses. Where love between species isn't an abomination, but Genesis. Eli lay down beside her. They stayed in silence for a while. The sky darkened. Stars danced above them. But one, just one, blinked in amber. Steady. Consistent. A heartbeat. I've been thinking, Eli said, about staying here. Here where? This place. This valley. This maybe new planet. And do what? Plant. Right. Wait. She turned to him. Wait for what? He smiled. For his return. Or someone like him. You think he'll come back? Eli looked up at the sky. I don't think he left. He just rose to a place where we could see him better. Meliara took his hand. If we're going to live here, then it's time to name it. A name. For the place where we lost our son. And became one. Eli thought for a moment. Kalorn. Sounds like home. Yeah. Sounds like the beginning. Sometimes the most unlikely stories are the ones that need to be told. What began as a meeting between a lonely man and an exiled alien queen became an impossible lineage, an echo that rang across species, castes, planets, and defied even the architects of creation. Meliara, the commander born to rule 1,000 castes, now walked among trees born from the womb of her own rebirth. She was no longer a warrior, nor only a mother. She was a witness to something greater than any empire. Transformation through affection. Eli, the ordinary man. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist or chosen by prophecy. He was simply present. Someone who loved without guarantees. Who stayed when everything said he should run. A human who held a 2.4-meter alien in his arms and whispered, "If I have to die, then I'll die with you." But he didn't die. Because love isn't an ending. It's an origin point. Kale was never just a child. He was a bridge. Between worlds. Between forms. Between fear and courage. When he left, or ascended, he didn't take a life. He left a seed. They felt it in the weeks that followed. The forest around them grew in tune with their emotions. When Meliara laughed, flowers bloomed. When Eli dreamed, stones changed shape. The world responded to their love. And that was more than biology. It was legacy. Kalorn, the name they gave their new world, became a symbol of everything they were denied at first. Contact, connection, care. One day, Eli found a structure growing on its own beneath the roots of an amber tree. It was a pedestal, the kind of thing a civilization builds. Not for worship, but for remembrance. There, he and Meliara carved something together. Not symbols, not dates, but 2 words in both languages they knew. First union. Because they didn't know if they'd be the last. But they knew, with certainty, they were the first who didn't back down. Years passed, or something like years. Kalorn didn't measure time like humans. There, time was a fabric, and Meliara and Eli were weaving a home. The clearing where everything began had become a living village, not filled with people, but with structures born from the ground, responding to their will. They weren't alone. In time, others came. Some from forgotten capsules in orbit. Others, exiled, just as Meliara once was. And even humans, some lost, some determined. The seed Kale had left behind was blooming in all of them. Eli, now older, his hair silvered with time, kept a journal that glowed at his touch. In it he wrote, "If someone finds this place, know this. We weren't gods, nor chosen. We just didn't run when we loved." And that was enough. Meliara would read it, occasionally correcting a line or two, teasing, "Humans write too much, and your people feel too much." And our son did both. On the last recorded night, a shooting star appeared, but it didn't fall. It stopped in the sky, still, pulsing. A streak of light descended into the clearing. From that light, a figure, not a child, not an adult, eyes like amber, hair like firelit mist. Kale. Meliara fell to her knees. Eli simply cried. Kale looked at them both, smiled, and said, "Do you still think all this was a mistake?" Eli answered without hesitation. It was the best thing the universe ever dared to do. Kale extended his hand, ready to see what else we can build. They took his hands and walked with him, not upward, not away, but into the light, together. If you made it this far, thank you. This wasn't just a story about impossible love. It was about choice, courage, and what happens when we refuse to accept what the world says must be. Tell us in the comments what touched you most on this journey. Share it with someone who believes true love can defy even biology. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. You're part of this galaxy now,